Bleeding purple and gold from the heart of Los Angeles. This is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Welcome to today's show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media, and today we're brought to you by FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/LakersNation for fantasy football. Football season is upon us, so head to FanDuel.com/LakersNation. My name is Trevor Lane, and you can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. You can find this show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, the CLNS Media app, and of course the phenomenal LakersNation.com. Head over to iTunes, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to this show. I do take some of the comments out of the review section and discuss them on air. So if you want to get your name on the show, that's a great way to do it. Now today, I've brought in Mark Medina of the Southern California News Group. We're going to talk about all things Lakers. However, I do have a news item to get to before we get to Mark, because this actually happened after I had already recorded this segment with Mark. We have heard a little bit more about this story with the Pacers accusing the Lakers of tampering. It seemed like things were all done with this, and it was just kind of going to be this fine for the Lakers and everything, but now there's more stuff coming up. So let me get everybody up to speed here. So Peter Vesey broke the story a few weeks ago that Pacers owner Herb Simon had asked the league to investigate the Lakers for tampering charges. What he felt had happened was that the Lakers tampered with Paul George, and that was part of why George was so hell-bent, as he was reported to be, on joining the Lakers, and that kind of killed his trade value, and that as a result, the Pacers were damaged. Their product was damaged, their franchise was damaged. Essentially, if Mr. Simon was going to go and sell his team now, it is worth less money because Paul George is no longer on it, and the return they got for him was not great. I mean, let's not forget, the Pacers traded Paul George to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Victor Oladipo, who's making about $20 million a year. And he has 4 years left on that. It just kicks in. And Domantas Sabonis. It was a pretty underwhelming return for the Pacers. And, of course, you can make the argument that there may have been better deals out there. In fact, I'd even argue that whatever the Lakers offered, be it some combination of Julius Randle and Jordan Clarkson and picks, probably would have been better than what the Pacers ended up getting. But that's kind of neither here nor there. The bottom line is the market was a bit low for Paul George, partially because teams are convinced that he's going to sign with the Lakers next summer as soon as he can when he's a free agent. So the league investigated. They used an outside law firm and investigated the Lakers, and the Lakers ended up getting fined $500,000. Now that's the largest fine ever for tampering. Most people talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves and the whole Joe Smith fiasco, and they got fined way more and lost draft picks and everything. That was actually for circumventing the salary cap, though. That wasn't a tampering issue because the Wolves they were dumb enough to go ahead and actually sign Smith to an illegal contract, and word got out, and they got in a ton of trouble for that. What the Lakers did was a bit different, and Vesey recently came out with a report, and this is what he says got the Lakers into all this trouble. And then we're going to get into the kind of the latest part of this story, because the story isn't going to die here. So what Vesey says, his sources have informed him, is that it was actually Rob Pelinka who was the one who was tampering, and that he actually talked to Paul George's agent, Aaron Mintz, and said, "We would like your guy to play for us." Those are reportedly the words of Rob Pelinka. We don't know if that's via an email or if it was a phone conversation or how this came about, but we'd like your guy to play for us. Now, notice Pelinka said we'd like your guy. He didn't say Paul George. So maybe that helped the Lakers not get into quite as much trouble as they might have otherwise. But bottom line, he was talking to Aaron Mintz, who's Paul George's agent. Now, there is a little bit of kind of a gray area here, because Mintz was also the agent for D'Angelo Russell. He is also the agent for Julius Randle. And, of course, Russell's no longer with the Lakers. But still, there would have been a lot of reason for Pelinka to talk to Mintz about his own clients, about Julius Randle, about D'Angelo Russell. If he was negotiating a trade, he should absolutely be communicating with him. So just the fact that Pelinka was communicating with Paul George's agent, that in and of itself wasn't enough to really get the Lakers in trouble. It was that comment, reportedly, again, this is per Peter Vesey, that comment that we would really like your guy to play for us, or we'd like your guy to play for us. That's what really got them into trouble, and so they picked up a $500,000 fine. Now, when they did that, even though that was the biggest tampering fine ever, Lakers fans had to kind of breathe a little sigh of relief, because we had heard that some of the other punishments could include not just a fine, but also that they could lose future draft picks and that they could potentially be forbidden to sign Paul George. Could just be for a certain number of years, or could just be permanently, or whatever. But the bottom line is that the Lakers may not have been able to sign Paul George next summer, and they could have lost draft picks. Now, $500,000, that's a lot of money. We're talking about $500,000. Like, yes, the Lakers do kind of print their own money. They're an extremely valuable franchise. But still, $500,000 is a lot of money. That's certainly not something that isn't going to sting, at least a little bit, for the Lakers. But it is far preferable to lose $500,000 than lose future draft picks. We know the Lakers already do not have a first-round pick next summer, because it will either go to the Philadelphia 76ers or the Boston Celtics. This is the remnants of the Steve Nash trade that they're dealing with. And we also know that they owe one more second-round pick to the Orlando Magic. That's from the Dwight Howard trade. So the Lakers losing any more draft picks would definitely hinder them as far as their rebuild goes. Remember, they're going to want to try to get Luol Deng off their books if possible, and it's probably going to take draft picks to do it. They're probably going to have to pay a team to take him off their hands and use draft picks as the incentive to get them to take him on, assuming that they don't want to part with Lonzo Ball or Brandon Ingram. They don't want to use those guys as the carrot, which they don't. Those guys are seem to be locked in. The Lakers don't want to part with either one of them, so they definitely need those picks. And imagine if the Lakers had lost the ability to sign Paul George. That would be disastrous. Their whole plan right now is to be able to sign 2 max-level free agents next summer. If you take Paul George off the board, suddenly you can't sign him. Now you're looking at trying to convince LeBron James and then maybe DeMarcus Cousins, maybe Russell Westbrook, if he hasn't taken his max extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder by then. The pickings start to get much slimmer if you take Paul George off the board, especially since it seems like he's the one out of the entire group that you would say is most likely to wind up coming to the Lakers. So that would have been devastating, but that didn't happen. Well, Lakers fans, of course, had to celebrate a little bit when we found out that it was just a $500,000 fine and that was it. Not the case for the Pacers. And for the Pacers owner, again, Herb Simon. Vesey, in his latest report, said that Herb Simon is really, really upset about this. He is not pleased at all. In fact, he said that he plans, this is Vesey, said that a confidant of the Pacers' longtime owner says he plans to raise a stink at the league's next Board of Governors meeting. And then quoted, "He's so fed up, don't be shocked if he," get this, "sues the league and the Lakers for damage." And again, this is through Peter Vesey's Patreon account, and it raises this question: can Herb Simon, the owner of the Pacers, because this ruling didn't go the way that he wanted, can he raise a stink in the next Board of Governors meeting? Absolutely. Yes, he can certainly do that, and I'm sure he will. Owners do this kind of stuff fairly often. We all remember infamously the uproar that was caused when the Lakers traded for Chris Paul, and the Board of Governors meeting happened to be taking place, and owners were not pleased. So will Herb Simon raise a stink at the next Board of Governors meeting? Almost certainly, because his franchise was damaged by this perception that Paul George was going to come to the Lakers. Now again, of course, you can fault them for making a terrible deal. They did. I don't think there's any argument about that. But still, the market was weakened because of George being rumored to being headed to the Lakers. So, he's got a little bit of reason to be upset. I mean, I would think that Lakers fans would be pretty mad too if something like that happened to them. If another team was rumored to be talking to one of their players that was under contract, I think that Lakers fans would all be upset too if the Lakers were damaged by a situation like that. Now again, not making an excuse for the trade itself though. That was a terrible trade, and the Pacers have all the blame there for actually pulling the trigger on that deal, because that was just an insane trade that they never should have done. Right there, there's no debate there. That was awful. But can he actually sue the Lakers? Can he sue the NBA over this? Probably not. I mean, the league has all kinds of protections in place. Everybody has to play by the rules, and the league has ruled on this. They've made their decision. It's a $500,000 fine. Some people just say, oh, this is a slap on the wrist and everything like that. But again, this is the largest tampering fine ever. Yes, the Lakers make more money than most teams, so this will hurt them less than it probably would another team. But still, it's the largest tampering fine in all of NBA history, and we do know that teams tamper all the time. I mean, that was part of the benefit of bringing in Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson, is that they would be willing to walk that fine line that seems to be what has to happen in order for teams to sign free agents these days. Mitch Kupchak wasn't really that guy that would do that. So because he played by the rules, he was at a bit of a disadvantage. Now, the Lakers obviously got caught in this situation, and they can't get caught in this kind of scenario again. And we should expect other teams to continue to monitor this closely, because they want to stop their players from leaving to other teams. But I'm not too worried about this whole lawsuit thing. It's probably just bluster. Again, this is my opinion, but I don't think much will really come of that. Again, the NBA has rules in place for a reason. However, the bigger concern is this whole Board of Governors thing. Because if Herb Simon raises a big enough stink, as Bessie's report says, then you could wind up with a situation where maybe the league starts really taking a look at becoming a little bit more strict with the tampering policy. Of course, we know players tamper all the time. They will try to bring in other players. In fact, it's seen teams see players who can go out and recruit as a positive for them. We know James Harden recruits pretty well. Of course, Chandler Parsons he's one of his main roles in the NBA when he's not collecting a check while he's injured, has been to recruit players to whatever team he's on, and he's very good at doing that. By the way, get well soon, Chandler Parsons. Hate seeing that guy injured so much, because he's definitely a good player. But still, Chandler Parsons has been great at recruiting players. So if you can get a player to do your recruiting for you, then usually you're okay. Teams, on the other hand, it's not okay. They have to be a little bit sneakier in order to get things done. But of course, it happens. It happens all the time. And teams who want to get a leg up have to be willing to kind of bend the rules a little bit. So the Lakers got caught here, but I don't think this is going to be the end of tampering or anything like that. But I do think that we may see more teams that lose their stars start to cry tampering when it happens. We may see things like that go down more frequently. And if Simon is able to raise enough of a ruckus at the Board of Governors meeting, maybe it's something the NBA will start investigating with a little bit more of under a magnifying lens, I suppose. And that might be bad news for the Lakers, because they're a team that doesn't have stars right now. They're a team that wants to go out and get stars. They want to take stars away from other teams in order to add them to their own team so that they can continue rebuilding. So if the NBA does start to crack down on that sort of stuff more, it could put them in a little bit of a tough situation. We know Rob Pelinka has tons of connections from his time as an agent. And of course, we, as the Lakers, as Lakers fans, we want him to be able to use those connections and hopefully help out the Los Angeles Lakers. As I promised, I do have Mark Medina today. We had a phenomenal conversation. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Mark, first of all, we know that you are leaving, actually. You're leaving the Los Angeles Lakers beat. You have accepted a position up north. You're going up to the Bay Area to join the San Jose Mercury News to cover the Golden State Warriors. So I guess first and foremost, congrats on the new gig.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, I'm excited. And, when I've been kind of reflecting back on these 9 years in LA, it's been surreal how quickly the time's gone by. And, I'll always cherish, obviously, the times that I've been able to have covering the Lakers, first as a Lakers blogger with the LA Times, and in the past 5 years with the LA Daily News as a beat writer. But, I'm going to miss those memories and, interacting with a lot of fans and talking with you on your podcast. But it's kind of one of these things, both from an opportunity standpoint, a financial standpoint, it's too good of a gig to pass up. So, as much as it is kind of bittersweet that I'm not going to be covering the Lakers, for this season, I won't forget about it, and I'm pumped for my next adventure.
Well, yeah, Mark, you have become a local legend in Southern California. You are well known by all Lakers fans. Your reporting has been absolutely fantastic, and so we certainly all wish you the very best up there in Golden State. Obviously, you're going to be covering a team that is going to open the season as the most likely team to win the NBA championship, which is pretty cool. That's got to be a cool change for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, first off, thanks so much for the kind words. I don't think I've ever heard of myself being a local legend, but I guess I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, that's an appeal. And, at the end of the day, there's an appeal with covering the Lakers whether they're good or they're bad. I mean, there's just always so much interest. There's always so many storylines. I think, just from a writer's perspective, both the Lakers and the Warriors have so much to offer because there's so many great personalities. But I think in the Warriors respect, you're right. I mean, they have so much talent. I think the sentiment around the NBA is it's basically them and then everyone else. And, there's there's going to be a lot of interesting games. It'll be fun to be covering playoff basketball. But, at least for me and my kind of career path, it's been about, just kind of embracing the opportunity I have and really trying to be a part of, covering the NBA. So I don't think like it's starting over per se, or I'm switching teams. It's really kind of the continuous path of my career, with just trying to stay entrenched with all those things. And, it's interesting with the Lakers and the Warriors. I mean, there's so many components and connections with that, where, now Nick Young's with the Warriors, and Luke Walton was an assistant coach, and, all those guys know him pretty well. And, there's been a lot of the players on the Warriors that have been kind of mentorship figures to some of these young Laker players. So I think it kind of goes all hand in hand and tie together, and all of which makes for some pretty cool stories.
Yeah, I was going to ask, were you and Nick Young really like a package deal here, or how did that work out?
I have to read the fine print. I know that, his agent was posed that question as well, and he wasn't aware of that. But I'm eager to hear, Nick Young's reaction, because when I was reaching out to, different Laker folks, with just giving them the heads up, one player, obviously in jest and joking, they said, why are you choosing Nick over me? So I know that they're pretty well aware of that connection, and I'm sure Nick will get a chuckle or two that I'm over there covering the team again with him on there.
Well, he's always one of the most interesting and fun guys to cover. So you get to cover not only a winning team, but you get to go cover Nick Young as well, who is always great for a good quote and a great story. And so, yeah, I mean, you're gonna be heading to a phenomenal situation up there.
Well, I mean, think about this with Nick Young. I mean, all these Laker fans know what Nick is about in terms of his personality, but I think you multiply that to the nth degree, because he's teamed up now with his longtime friend and former teammate with the Wizards, JaVale McGee. So I think there's definitely going to be some funny moments, maybe some things that happen on the court that leave you scratching your head. But I think at the end of the day, the Nick Young signing with Golden State, I had the chance to talk with him a little bit this summer about that when he left the Lakers, and it just felt like, when you understood the Warriors' perspective and Nick's perspective, it was a win-win and made complete sense. I mean, the Warriors have so much talent. They just need someone like Nick Young to provide some secondary scoring to relieve the pressure. And for Nick, he enjoyed his time in LA, but there's obviously a lot of frustrating moments, including the losing parts. I think he was really eager to try to get into a good environment where he would have a chance to play on a playoff team. And there's no other better candidate than that with the Warriors.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this when the announcement first came out that he had signed with the Warriors, and I mean, who would have thought 1 year ago that at this point that Nick Young is now one of the favorites to win an NBA championship? I mean, everybody thought he was going to be out of the league by this point, and yet here he is. He completely resurrected his career, ended up on the Golden State Warriors. Couldn't be more happy for him. Awesome guy, and just really cool story to see him really bring his career back to life.
Yeah, and you hit on a great point there, and I brought up that point that you just said to Nick after Drew League game this summer, a few weeks after he signed with Golden State, and he was saying it's not an understatement at all that he basically changed his whole outlook on where his future was in the NBA and just kind of his reputation around the league. I mean, to his own self-admission, he thought the Lakers were going to waive him. He thought that he was going to have to be playing in China because of two reasons. One, he and Byron Scott obviously did not see eye to eye on a number of things, including his role, his playing time, his public criticisms of his game. Obviously, we all know about the D'Angelo Russell, Nick Young situation, and I think there was a feeling at the beginning of when that happened that they're going to have to part ways with Nick because at that point they were invested in D'Angelo's, long-term growth as a promising young player. But he was surprised. The Lakers were willing to give him a chance, but also he wanted to make sure to give the Lakers a reason to give him a chance. He had spent so much time last summer getting himself in better shape, working in the gym, staying out of trouble to prove that he was really serious in trying to make this comeback. And then to the Lakers' credit, I mean, Luke Walton really came in with an open mind, told him that he, saw him as having a blank slate. I think that there was a hope, because it's a new coaching staff and Luke Walton has a much different philosophy in terms of his offense and how he coaches than Byron, that Nick would be able to flourish under that environment. And, he and D'Angelo, at least from an on-court chemistry standpoint, were willing to put some of their differences to the side. And you fast forward here, and all of a sudden, Swaggy P is ring chasing.
Yeah, right. I mean, he goes from being just about out of the league to suddenly he's a Laker, and he's stealing passes from teammates and hitting game-winning three-pointers, and now he's a Golden State Warrior. Crazy. It's amazing the way things in this world work out. Hey,
Yeah, and here's the thing where this ties into Golden State. I mean, obviously Golden State's a well-oiled machine. They have a lot of supporting cast, a lot of talent where they're fortunate to not rely on Nick Young's success or failure, but they do see him as an added piece that can, give them even more firepower, allow, Steve Kerr some flexibility to rest some of his starters for the long haul. And I think, the environment that the Golden State Warriors have created, is really in tune with what Nick Young's personality is all about, where it's all about joy, having a good time. And that's one of the things that appealed to him, when he played for Luke Walton. And I think it's one of the reasons, beyond the obvious talent that Golden State has, is one of the reasons why he wanted to go to the Warriors.
Yeah, it's definitely a good fit for him, and hopefully he'll continue his success there. I know he definitely won a spot in the hearts of Lakers fans, and so we gotta wish him all the best. Now, Mark, I got to get your take on this Lakers franchise. It's been a while. I think the last time I had you on was back in May. It was before the draft. So a lot has changed since then. And I kind of wanted to get just your general take on the direction the franchise is headed right now and how you see the future of this team looking at this point.
Yeah, it's on one sense, there's a lot of optimism, and then in another sense, it's a new batch of question marks. I think the optimism is that you saw some of the culture change take place already with just the fact that they won in Summer League. You saw Lonzo Ball's potential in terms of changing how the team plays as an offense, which is they play as a team and not individuals, and his passing, seems like a natural thing that he'll carry over to the NBA. But at the end of the day, it is Summer League. You have to take that for what it's worth. But also the moves that the Lakers made and did not make this offseason, I think, is very encouraging. I mean, we already started talking about Lonzo Ball, but they had a lot of good draft picks, and Kyle Kuzma, that a guy that showed a lot of potential in Summer League as a guy that maybe could steal some minutes at some point at the power forward spot from either Julius Randle and or Larry Nance Jr. And then, there's some other guys like Josh Hart and Thomas Bryant that all fit a specific need and provide a specific skill that the Lakers were looking for. Then you look at free agency. They were very deliberate, and they made it clear that they weren't going to be trying to host all these elaborate pitch meetings. They weren't going to be spending a lot. They were going to be beholden to one-year deals to try to get that cap flexibility. And then all of a sudden, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope became available in the free agency market, and they struck gold. I mean, he was a guy that kind of checked all the boxes from the Lakers wanting to, add some veteran backcourt leadership, get a guy who can hit some outside shots, get a guy who can defend. And then last but not least, the Lakers front office somehow, some way, found a way to get rid of the Timofey Mozgov contract. That is extremely huge, and the only way they can really top that is if they get rid of the Luol Deng contract. And obviously, it frees up a lot of cap space to try to go after LeBron, try to go after Paul George. And, I think the feeling with those ambitions is it was going to be easier said than done, but I think the stars perfectly aligned where the Lakers, took advantage of finding a trade partner in Brooklyn that was willing to take off Mozgov's contract. They were able to get a very serviceable center in return in Brook Lopez on an expiring deal, get another draft pick that wound up being Kyle Kuzma. And then, obviously there was a price they had to pay in getting rid of D'Angelo Russell. But I think that from the Lakers' perspective, it was the cost of doing business. They were already going to draft another point guard in Lonzo Ball. And, we've hit on this before in your podcast, Trevor, but, there was a lot of, optimism and some good feelings about D'Angelo's potential and the numbers he showed his second year. But there's a lot of question marks with his consistency, his leadership, his overall attitude that, not only carried over from Byron Scott's coaching staff, but carried over to Luke Walton's coaching staff as well as the new front office. So, obviously they have a young team. So to think that they're all of a sudden going to turn things around, easier said than done. We really don't know to what degree Brandon Ingram or Jordan Clarkson or Larry Nance Jr., Ivica Zubac are going to improve. You would think they will improve, but how much, that remains to be seen. And then obviously all the rookies, including Lonzo. There's a lot of potential, but this is the NBA. There are going to be hiccups. And then there's a loaded Western Conference. So I think when you add all those things up, it's probably going to be a 30-win, plus season. But is that enough to really entice a guy like Paul George, who's with the Thunder already and might be able to go deep in the playoffs? Even with all the drama going on in Cleveland, is that enough to entice LeBron James to leave all that to go to the Lakers? Obviously, if they partner up, that obviously changes the landscape with what they can accomplish. But there's a lot of what-ifs as well as, some optimism, and that makes for maybe an exciting Lakers season, but an uncertain Lakers season on top of that.
We're going to pause for just one moment to talk about fantasy football, and of course that means we're talking about FanDuel. Now, FanDuel is fantasy football for everyday fans, and they have new contests starting every single week. This is an excellent way to go because you know what? If you blow it on draft day, it doesn't matter all that much. You're going to be okay. You can draft a new team the very next week in a regular fantasy football league. If you have a terrible draft, you're going to be spending the entire season watching your team at the bottom of your league's bracket. It sucks. It's a terrible situation to be in. I've been in that situation myself far too many times. FanDuel allows you the ability to draft a new team each week. I love it. So when you are playing fantasy sports, every single game becomes that much more exciting. You're watching your guys rack up points for you. I'm a big Cowboys fan, so I try to watch Cowboys games and I try to get those players on my FanDuel team because then I can watch them not only win the game, hopefully, but also score points for my team. One of the guys that I've been going after quite a bit this season is Dak Prescott. I know some people have said he's going to have a sophomore slump and everything. I don't think so. I'm going all in on him. Of course, I am certainly biased on that opinion there. Now, over 2.5 million players have won a cash prize playing fantasy sports on FanDuel. It's incredible. Sign up today, go to FanDuel.com, click the Join Now button, use my special code, just type in Lakers Nation. You can try FanDuel for free with no deposit required. Visit FanDuel.com to claim your free contest and play for a share of $10,000. Just sign up using promo code Lakers Nation. Once again, that's FanDuel.com, promo code Lakers Nation. Void where prohibited. This is something that Lakers fans have kind of seen before. I mean, we've read this story before where you've got the Lakers hoarding cap space and doing what they can to make sure they keep the cap free so they can chase after these superstar free agents. I mean, we know Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss employed this strategy, and they chased after a lot of different guys and weren't able to sign any of them. But there seems to be this sense that with Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka in charge, that their fortunes will change in free agency. Have you gotten that same sense being around the team, that there's this confidence that they are going to be able to sign these guys now, or is it more, just continued trepidation?
I think there's optimism, but there's also kind of what you say. I would say it's cautious optimism. Maybe that's a good term. And it's not about just the fact that, hey, they have Magic now. They have Rob Pelinka. They have charismatic guys. At the end of the day, it's about how good the team is and what they're building. And I think that's kind of the larger element in play. You hit on a good point that we kind of have heard this story before. We've heard this strategy before, but it came under a different context. Before it was they were going through a lot of different coaching changes that they wound up shuffling through with different coaching philosophies with Mike D'Antoni and Byron Scott. A lot of guys on one-year deals. And, when you have guys on one-year deals, it creates a little bit of a thing where you're getting some unproven players. You're getting guys that, even if they have the best intentions, are trying to secure their NBA future. And, when you have that lack of continuity coming in, there's an adjustment with their role. And then Kobe Bryant, he's not playing at the prime of his level because of all the injuries and the father time. So the idea that, they'd be able to clear the decks for LeBron James or a Carmelo Anthony to come or to convince Pau Gasol to stay, I mean, it's a huge leap of faith to just want to go there just because it's the Lakers. And as we saw, a lot of tough rebuilding seasons ensued. And here, there's certainly a risk of, they might be hoarding all this cap space and Paul George and LeBron James decide not to go to the Lakers or any other guys. But I think here, at least, you have a young core they're developing. At this point, they're invested in Luke Walton. There is that synergy within the front office with Jeannie Buss because of the changes that she made with replacing her brother and Mitch Kupchak. So I think that's where the context is different. But what's going to be interesting, and, to some degree, the Lakers are kind of entering this stage now is, at what point is there a fork in the road where you have to put a value of cap space versus the young core? To some degree, they did that a little bit already with trading D'Angelo Russell, but there were also larger components in play. But what the next domino that they have to figure out, Julius Randle, he's eligible for an extension, or before the season. They'll probably wait so they can have that cap space available and then also see how he plays. But will they be willing to commit to him at the end of this season? Jordan Clarkson, he's a guy that has 2 years left on his contract. They had already offered him, as well as Julius, in different trade proposals to Indiana. He's obviously a guy as part of their young core, and they like his steady growth. And even though they want some consistency out of him, they like just what he represents as part of a piece of the young roster, but they do not see him as untouchable. He's a guy that I'm sure will be hearing his name in trade rumors as the Lakers try to find more ways to get rid of cap space. I mean, obviously, if they're able to stretch the Luol Deng contract or trade it, that would be significant, but that's always easier said than done. So that's going to be kind of interesting. How do they kind of balance those two components? Because right now, it hasn't been entirely mutually exclusive, but there are going to be some tough decisions to make as far as, what component do you put most value in.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought up Randle and Clarkson, because those were the two guys that I had on my list to make sure that we talked about today, because I think that they are in a really interesting position, both guys. And I guess I want to start here with Randle. He's in incredible shape. I mean, we've seen these pictures and the workout videos and everything where he is just absolutely shredded. I mean, this guy, I've said it before, but he looks like he's ready to go step into an MMA ring or something like that and fight somebody. I mean, he is in insane shape. And we know he's been working on his game and everything. We know the Lakers will probably not give him any kind of an extension. They're going to wait until next summer. What kind of a season do you see out of Julius Randle? Because personally, I'm predicting big things for him, but maybe I'm overly optimistic.
I don't know. And that's coming from a place where I've seen how he's been playing the last few years, talking to different people in the organization around the league. That's the intriguing part about Julius, and that's, I think, the frustrating part about Julius is, let's make it clear off the bat. People in the Lakers organization love his work ethic. They love the fact that he has shown a lot of growth in being receptive to receiving and handling criticism. They love the fact that he means well, and even when he has been frustrated, it's all come from a good place. Now I think what they're waiting on is how does this all come together? You see flashes of his jump shot. You see flashes of his versatility. You see flashes of his defense. But then you see flashes of his inconsistency, his offensive fouls, his defensive fouls, his frustration. So I think, there's a hope that, he's been showing so many positive signs with his willingness to put in the work and do those kind of things that you outlined. But can that match the work ethic he's got down pat, but can he now learn how to work efficiently and make better decisions on the court? That's something that he has to prove. And to be frank, you look at the forward spot, they got Larry Nance Jr., they got Kyle Kuzma, they got Luol Deng. I mean, this is a whole other thing regarding if Deng is going to get 8 minutes. That might be challenging, but Larry Nance Jr. is a guy that provides a lot of value for what he does. And Kyle Kuzma is a guy that has shown a lot of, intriguing things in Summer League. And it is Summer League, so I caution you that. But if he's able to grow, there might be a thing where all three of those guys are trying to see, who's going to be the beneficiary of more minutes, who's going to be losing some of them, and, how does each player kind of handle, the changes that come with that.
It's absolutely going to be a battle for minutes in there at that power forward position, and you hit the nail on the head on Luol Deng. That's something I've been saying for quite a while, that Deng really is more of a power forward at this point, so it's going to be tough for him to carve out minutes, plus Kuzma, plus Nance, plus Randle. So Luke Walton's going to have his hands full as far as the power forward slot goes. And I do want to chat a little bit about Jordan Clarkson as well, because I mean, when I look at Jordan Clarkson, I feel like his head has to be spinning. I mean, he started his rookie year as a point guard. Next thing you know, he's the starting shooting guard. Then last season, he's the sixth man, but not really, because he's playing in a lineup with Lou Williams, so he's not quite a true sixth man. Lou Williams was kind of running the show, and Clarkson was doing his thing a little bit. Then he got thrust back into the point guard spot at the end of last season, and now it sounds like he's going to be really the sixth man this year. Do you think we're finally going to see a comfortable Jordan Clarkson that just gets settled into a role, or what are we going to see from him this coming season?
Yeah, I think you'll never Jordan Clarkson's always going to put in the work, but as you said, that there's been a lot of role changes that he's even admitted has been a challenge. And so I think the challenging part is to what degree do you attach the external circumstances that account for his struggles, and to what degree do you attach it to just Jordan himself in terms of his talent and his game and what he's trying to figure out. Obviously, it's a mixture of both, but I think here it's another role change that he's going to have because there's a new backcourt that he has to get adjusted to with KCP and Lonzo Ball. But I think, honestly, from a chemistry standpoint and for his own game, he's actually going to benefit from that. Lou Williams was a very productive player, and rightfully so. He took a lot of shots because of his efficiency. But if you look at Jordan Clarkson's numbers after the Lakers traded Lou Williams, they were a lot more efficient. And even if D'Angelo Russell and Jordan Clarkson were friends, there was never a feeling within the coaching staff that was a good pairing, both from an offensive chemistry standpoint and a defensive chemistry standpoint. Jordan's even admitted himself that was always a challenge of at times of playing with him. And, I talked with him earlier this summer, and he kind of acknowledged what we all saw with Lonzo Ball, the fact that he passes and finds guys open. I think that that's going to make Jordan feel very comfortable because his instincts are to score, but at the same time, he is trying to find an avenue of when to do that, when to make the pass. But I think because there were so many guys on the team last year that were also looking to score, I think that, just from watching the games and talking to Jordan, it seemed like that may have contributed to him sometimes looking for his shot more often than passing because he was afraid if he made the pass, he wouldn't be getting the ball back. And here, Lonzo's going to hit the open guy, and I think it's just human nature. Guys are going to hustle more, both in making sharp cuts to get themselves open and on defense if they know that they're going to get rewarded with the ball in their hands.
Yeah, it's gonna be definitely a shift as we move into the Lonzo Ball era. I mean, we saw the impact that he had on the Lakers Summer League team where they were moving the ball, and man, that got me thinking. Heck, if he's got the ability to get these players that are playing for their basketball lives in Summer League, they're doing everything they can to stand out individually and impress some people and maybe link on somewhere, whether it's with an NBA team or a European team or whatever. He's got those guys making the extra pass. I'm really curious to see what kind of impact he's going to have at the NBA level, if he's going to get NBA superstars making extra passes along with him as well. So it's an exciting time, and I agree with you about Jordan Clarkson. I think that he is going to fit in pretty well with Ball, and they are different enough to where we should see some good things out of Clarkson. But as you mentioned earlier, the Lakers may end up having to make a trade, and it seems like Jordan Clarkson is a prime candidate to wind up going elsewhere, maybe by the trade deadline. Do you have a sense for how quickly the Lakers are looking to make a move like that? I know that the report a few weeks ago was that the Lakers feel like they can move Jordan Clarkson when the time comes.
Yeah, I mean, I think with all NBA teams, there's not going to be really any activity until leading into the trade deadline. That's when there's more clarity on where the team is at. Obviously, they want to get some sample size of data and games to watch to just see how he's playing, how others are playing. And that, I think, cuts both ways of, gain a true sense of what their market value is and what they can get in return. And then number two, clarity of, how does he fit in the long-term picture of things? And at what point would we be comfortable trading him? At what point would they be comfortable keeping him? I don't sense anything happening until they, the trade deadline approaches, and then at that point, it's going to be dialogue, and again, at that point, it'll be depend on what the deals are available at the time.
So, Mark, I know that your time is limited here because you're taking care of everything that you need to in order to move up to the Bay Area. So I wanted to close with this, and I thought it was really fortuitous that we got you on this week because last week with Hannah Kulik on, we got into a discussion about a hypothetical matchup between the 2001 Lakers, who only lost one game, versus the 2017 Golden State Warriors. And being the guy who just spent so many years covering the Los Angeles Lakers and is now going to cover the Golden State Warriors, I probably couldn't dream up anybody that would be better suited to discuss this. So fans have been talking about it quite a bit on Twitter and on our Facebook page. What's your take? I know it's a big question to dig into and everything, but what's your take if you were to take the 2001 Lakers and put them against the 2017 Golden State Warriors? I mean, would the universe just collapse on itself due to sheer basketball awesomeness, or what would happen?
Yeah, I think it would be that. I think it would be a 7-game series. I think it would be Shaq and Draymond Green trash talking. I think it would be Kobe and Steph Curry trading baskets. I mean, unbelievable series. And to pick a winner, I mean, I think if you did a simulation test like 100 times, like you could see it almost drawing even or both teams won. But if I had to look, I would still go with the 2001 Lakers simply because of this. I know small ball is prevalent in the NBA, but small ball can't stop Shaq, so it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter if he might not have a three-point shot or he can't shoot his free throws. He's going to impose his will inside. And then, you kind of adapt to the circumstances. I mean, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green. I mean, they're all in tune with the modern NBA. But I would think, within Phil Jackson's triangle system, there would be flexibility to be in tune with the modern NBA. So you would see a lot of scorers on the Lakers. Obviously, Kobe being the primary one that would be able to adapt and utilizing the 3-point shot a lot more than they had been using in the triangle offense. So I would give a slight edge to the Lakers because Shaq is one of a kind, but man, that would be a hell of a series to watch, and I wish there's some way, somehow, we make enough advances in technology that somehow that becomes possible at some point.
Oh, we just need Doc Brown to show up with the DeLorean, and then we'll be in good shape. Mark, this is I'm a little bit surprised by your response that you went with the Lakers, but I mean this is awesome because you're going to the Warriors and you picked the Lakers. I'm still covering the Lakers and I actually went Warriors. So you've got unbiased opinions here on the Lakers Nation podcast. It would be amazing.
I never covered the Lakers wearing a jersey or waving the pom-poms. It's all about doing my job. So I just say what I think, and that's what it is.
That's probably the best way to go about it. That's for sure. Well, Mark, before you get out of here, last thing, you're going to be heading up to the Bay Area. You're going to be covering the Golden State Warriors. I know you've got tons of memories from your time with the Lakers and everything. Is there a single moment that happens to really stand out or stand above the rest that you'll really cherish from your time covering the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's interesting about covering, not just the Lakers, but like any sports writer that covers a team, our perspectives are much different because we work with these guys on a day-to-day basis. So, my primary memories will be more for the relationships, the professional relationships I forged with just all the different members of the organization in the front office and the different coaches and the players, behind the scenes folks. So, I mean, obviously from a fan perspective, not many would think like that. But, as far as then, moments I witnessed, I would have to say that there are two clear-cut things. One, Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Lakers-Celtics, it kind of speaks for itself. It wasn't a well-played game, but the stakes were so high that both teams just wanted it really badly, and you could see and feel that tension on the floor. And just, the game within the game of Kobe overcoming a poor shooting performance by getting a lot of good rebounds and playing good defense. Ron Artest playing out of his mind and having his most legendary moment as a Laker. Pau Gasol doing what he does, and Pau and Derek Fisher hitting some clutch shots at the end, and Sasha Vujacic hitting free throws. I mean, all those elements made it into a very compelling game. And then obviously, as we all know, Ron Artest and now Metta World Peace, his infamous press conference of, where he thanked his psychologist publicly, right, and just showed sheer joy and raw emotion. As a reporter, I will remember just the atmosphere and being at the game, being in the locker room, being in the press conference. And then the second part, Kobe's final game. I mean, that whole season was surreal because, you're seeing, even though pretty bad basketball, a lot of losses, and obviously Kobe far removed from his prime years, but you're seeing after every last game on the road, him just getting so many strong ovations and opponents waxing nostalgic and sharing stories about their connection with Kobe. And obviously Kobe waxing nostalgic himself. And all that being said, I did not expect what I saw in his final game. I knew there's going to be a huge atmosphere. I knew there's going to be a lot of Laker luminaries. I knew there's going to be a lot of fans and a lot of, kind of marketing things going on in terms of his brand and different toys and different gear that they're promoting at the game. But I did not expect that he would be going off for 60 points. And it was funny. There was a time in the game where, I don't have the box score in front of me, but he missed his first few shots. And you're starting to expect that, hey, this is a farewell to Kobe, but obviously this is Kobe the way all Laker fans remember him. But hey, the atmosphere is what it is. That's good enough. But then he started just going on a tear. And after a while, I didn't think it was real life. Like I thought this is a crazy night in Vegas where nothing makes sense, but you just go along with it, right?
It was.
And then, it was just surreal because it was a crazy game, a very long press conference because it's his final game. And I did not get out of the arena until 3:30 that night because, there's so much going on. His press conference, then afterwards, he's hugging every person he's probably ever met in the Lakers Staples Center and the organization. He's talking with some of the media members, including myself, afterwards and sharing some nice words to each other. And then you had to write, and you want to do it justice because that's what it is about being a sports writer. It's not about having a stake in a team's success or failure or anything like that. It's about witnessing moments and trying to capture that as much as you can for the fans. And so I didn't get out until 3:30 that morning because you want to do it justice to that and do the best job you can. And then lo and behold, the next day, it's exit interviews at 9 o'clock. So it's, it made for a long week, but, this is what you sign up for. And it was definitely an honor and a blessing to be able to be a part of that amazing ride.
Those were unforgettable moments, and yeah, I hear you talking about these things, and I remember seeing them and watching them and experiencing them myself, and I know that all Lakers fans are probably thinking the same thing. We're all remembering kind of where we were when all of that was going on, and so it's those I don't think anything else could top those moments. So those are good ones to pick, definitely, Mark.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Lakers always have so many moments. It's almost like you can't go wrong on choosing them. But there's been some tough years that I covered, and then obviously early on when they were really good, and championships were the norm. But through it all, it was always a joy to cover the Lakers, and there's always interesting storylines, always interesting personalities, and so many great people to work with, whether, Laker fans knew who they were because, they're pretty high profile with the jersey or behind the scenes folks. I'm not overstating this when I'm saying that people in the organization that I met, it's all top class. So that's, again, kind of the sticking memory that I'll have with, having the privilege and honor to be able to cover them for, 7 years, 2 years as a blogger for the LA Times, and then these past 5 years with the LA Daily News.
Well, Mark, it's certainly been a joy getting to read your work and follow all the coverage that you've provided over the last 7 years, as you said, and so we certainly appreciate all of your efforts.
Thank you so much. It means a lot, and appreciate your interest as well, and reaching out to me and inviting me on your podcast, and having another platform to try to reach a pretty wide audience of Laker fans.
So you are heading up to the Bay Area, and as we kind of wrap up here, I'm going to say this isn't the end of Mark Medina with Lakers fans, because I know who I'm going to call now when the Lakers go play the Warriors. We're going to have you come on at some point and talk a little bit about how things are going up in Northern California and break down the Lakers versus Warriors matchup.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing that was cool this past year is there's always connections with certain players, certain opponents, but I think the Lakers and Warriors had so many connections in particular. You start off, obviously, Luke Walton, first-year head coach after being an assistant with the Warriors. So Steve Kerr obviously knew him well. The players knew him well. But you break it down, and it was down by the roster. Klay Thompson, his father is the legendary Showtime Laker Michael Thompson, who's now on the radio. And, Steph Curry is a guy that, as well as many around the league, saw Kobe in such positive light and, really admired him. And I remember asking him this, interesting hypothetical that I had in my mind when he's just going off for all these points, that did he ever think that he could ever have the chance to surpass Kobe's 81-point game? And he told me, not a chance. I mean, that's unheard of to be able to do that. And I think the sentiment from when I talk to people about that is, it's not like Steph would really have the opportunity to do that. They're blowing teams out. He's going to rest. But I was really able to kind of pick Steph's brain a little bit about just the hypothetical in that. And that really kind of revealed his thought process of what he took away from Kobe's performance that night and just kind of the scoring mentality and how he's tried to use that in his game. You look at, because there's so many young players on this team, Luke Walton has tried to mold Julius Randle into a Draymond Green kind of player. I was able to talk to Draymond about their relationship with USA Basketball, kind of their matchups over the years and the trash talking and, his positive reviews on Julius's potential. There's so many comparisons to Kevin Durant and Brandon Ingram because of, their skill set, their frame, kind of the notion of, these guys were pretty skinny. Is that going to be an issue? And Durant's kind of been taking him under his wing, and kind of an offshoot of that is Durant was one of Brandon's favorite players growing up. And so I had a chance to ask Kevin about their relationship and what he sees in Brandon and kind of navigating that criticism that he found unfair about, he's going to be too skinny to do well in the league because he's Exhibit A of, maybe that's probably overblown because that was kind of the MO about Durant. And then, Luke Walton got Andre Iguodala, former Arizona teammate. They used to work together at Golden State. He got Andre Iguodala to talk to Brandon before the season started last year about accepting a bench role. Remember, Andre Iguodala, he was a former All-Star, former Olympian. When he was with the Sixers, and he winds up on the Warriors, and they're asking him to have a bench role. I mean, that's a lot for a really talented and prideful player to do. But to his credit, he was willing to do that for the sake of the team, and he offered perspective to Brandon about embracing that his rookie year. And so, I'm sharing all these stories to show that there's just so many connections between those two teams, and that's kind of one of the appeals that I found with this new gig. That there's a lot of similarities, a lot of great personalities, a lot of things, obviously, that Luke Walton is trying to incorporate from Golden State because it has been so successful. So with that being said, I'm going to miss my time in LA with the Lakers, but I'm looking forward and pumped to going up to the Bay and then covering the Warriors. It's going to be a blast.
Well, yeah, we're certainly going to continue following your work up there with the Warriors. And by the way, if you want to follow Mark, I'm sure if you're listening to the show, you're probably already following him. But you can find him on Twitter at _Medina. Always a great follow on there. Even if he's going to be posting Warrior stuff, he always has the just fantastic news pieces there. So go check him out. He's going to be at the San Jose Mercury News. And just a phenomenal follow. So make sure you guys do that. So Mark, of course, we wish you the best of luck up there. We'll definitely keep in touch and have you come on when the Lakers go play the Warriors. That's going to be a lot of fun matchups there. And like you said, there's so many connections between the Lakers and the Warriors. You're leaving, but you can't really escape the Lakers. So you're not going to be too far away.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be in LA at least a few times this year with Clippers, Lakers games, and I'll be sure to be in touch.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on today. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know things are crazy right now, so really do appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
So that was Mark Medina. Sad to lose him for the LA market, but of course he's going to be phenomenal up in the Bay Area, and he's going to be another big get for the Golden State Warriors. That's going to about wrap things up today. We are inching closer to training camp, so things are going to start really ramping up for the Los Angeles Lakers. Make sure you head over to LakersNation.com for all of the latest Lakers news. My name's Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. You can find this show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, the CLNS Media app, and of course, LakersNation.com. That's going to be a wrap for today. See you next time.